Unmuted.
All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. I think we got everything running.
This time we mean
Yeah, we mean it this time. So I'm going to go ahead and convene this meeting of the Assembly Infrastructure, Enterprise, and Utility Oversight Committee of the Whole. We are notes today from 11:15 to 12:15 p.m. I'd like to go ahead and start with member introductions. Jared Gerker,
Anna Brawley, Aaron Baldwin Day,
Zach Johnson, and I do not believe we have anybody on the phone.
Incorrect, Chair.
Felix Rivera.
I'm sorry, who is this?
Sounds like George.
Oh, member
Felix
Martinez.
and George
Okay,
are
thank
on
you.
the line.
Okay, and I believe that is it. So with that, let's just go ahead and jump into
Member
our business
Rivera
today.
and member Rivera and member Martinez are both on the line.
Okay, member Rivera, thank you. And Martinez, yes, I think we've acknowledged everyone. All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and just jump into our business. First item we have today is from Mattson with a personnel introduction. And I see you are here at the table, so turn the mic on, just push the button until the light turns green, and go ahead and take a minute to introduce yourself. Oh, just tap it.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry,
Okay.
my phrasing was poor.
Nope, that's okay. Hi, good afternoon, Chair Johnson and Assembly members. Thank you for your service to Municipality of Anchorage and the opportunity to introduce myself today. My name is Jennifer Tungle, or I go by Jen, and I recently assumed the role of Senior Vice President of Alaska for Mattson in August 2025. In this position, I have the privilege to oversee all of Mattson's Alaska operations, including terminal operations, customer service, sales, finance, you name it. It's me. I also am the chair of Mattson's Community Giving Committee, which focuses on community and engagement. I was raised in Unalaska, so Anchorage is a little bit colder for me. I've been part of Mattson's Alaska team since 2002, serving in a variety of roles from finance to operations and labor relations. So primary labor negotiator for Mattson. I moved from Unalaska to Anchorage in 2019 to serve as the vice president of operations. Beyond my work at Mattson, I also serve as the municipality's PAMP chair recently, or advisory board chair, sorry. And since moving to Anchorage, I've served on the YWCA board, the Covenant House board, and the Awake board. I am a proud mom of 3 very busy children. One is currently in medical school through WWAMI. My middle is Oregon State University, and my youngest, who keeps me the busiest with basketball, is at Lumen Christi. I look forward to continuing Mattson's strong partnership with the municipality of Anchorage and working together to support our local economy and community. If you ever want to come down to the port and see it firsthand, please let me know. Otherwise, please feel free to reach out to myself or Dylan with anything you need respective to Mattson.
Great, thank you very much.
you.
Welcome, and we're excited we look forward to working with you in this new role. Are there any questions from the members? No, thank you. All right, well, I expect we'll see you soon.
Great to meet you.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead on to our next item, a update on the Port of Alaska modernization project.
Good morning, Assembly members. My name is Eric Adams, the Jacobs Program Manager, supporting the Port of Alaska and the Muni and delivering the PAM. Today's presentation is just a really quick update of what's going on with Terminal 1. And if you guys have any additional questions, more than happy to answer them for you. So it's just a quick little slideshow of some photos there. So Terminal 1 construction, one of the big things that everybody's focused on is making sure we get the Marriott Fonzie/EA. All indications, we should have that by the end of this month, which is a huge win. That basically means permitting's complete for T1 and T2, and that's a huge win going forward. We have piling fabrication ongoing. We also started the precast element fabrication, began earlier this month. We're working with the contractor and Matson to coordinate construction work and container operations. And also just a reminder, the construction notice to proceed is March 2026, March 15th, actually. And we will be proceeding with work on the site on that day.
On this slide, remember Baldwin Day?
Yeah, for those who might be listening who think that Fonzie is a Latin hip hop artist, would you tell us what Fonzie stands for?
Or a Muppet.
Great question through the chair. Fonzie stands for finding of no significant impact. Basically, it's no impact to the environment or the blue, any of those items that could be harmed by construction activities.
Great, thank you.
So this first photo here, this is down in Seattle area. This is a piling loadout. You can see the big crane there. This barge over here on the right-hand side is holding 18 of the piling. They've been epoxy coated. Half of it, if you're wondering why only half, is the resting looking part of it is going in the ground, and the epoxy part of it, gray, will be above ground. They're basically 72-inch diameter piling, each about 200 feet long, being loaded onto the barge. General rule of thumb is this is about a ton per foot. So this is about 200 tons for each piling. The 2-inch wall thick, and takes some large cranes to pick them up and move them. So basically this barge here is secured down there. We've sent inspectors down, checked it out. There's 18 pilings on them, and it's being stored until they can be traveled up here in April of this year. Next one, just to give you a photo of the size, this is subcap rebar. It's basically the pre-tied reinforcing steel cage as delivered to Concrete Technologies Corporation. This steel cage actually sits inside those pilings you just see, and we fill it full of concrete. Subcap portion. Here's another angle of the subcap forms. These are big forms. This is the cage in forms. We make sure go through that all the color codes match, basically the being built according to plans and specs. We send a team down there, take a look at this before any major big pours, make sure the Muni is getting what they're paying for. Here's another shot of the subcap forms. This would be poured like a wall, but that's right here basically just sits on top of the piling that you saw earlier. I call them champagne corks. They slide into the piling, and that would be the subcap. And really, that's all I have today. Everything's on track from a construction schedule. All the submittals are being reviewed timely, and no issues that we're aware of to date.
Well,
Any questions?
that's good news. Thank you, and appreciate the visuals. It's pretty cool, and it certainly makes it real.
These are big items, big items.
Indeed.
So,
Hope they last. Any questions from the?
they're designed to last 75 years with maintenance.
Any questions from the member Raleigh?
Yeah, thanks. And that's great news to hear that it's on track. I guess just wondering, high level, if there are any future speed bumps that you're anticipating or seeing. I know those are hard to anticipate, obviously, but just making sure that we are still on a good track through going into the new year.
Yes, we're on any large construction project, there could be potential hiccups on anything, but right now we don't see any. We're at the big focus date for us is August 15, 2028, and everything's still on track to make sure that comes together, as well as, because that's when Matson brings the cranes up on that date as well. We got a couple items to work out on the electrical substation, that other project that you'll be hearing about in January. We'll be coming back on that, but we're working through that right now, and we'll be bringing that for action to you guys next month.
Thanks. And if I might add that, I mean, the specific sneak preview on that is there may be a recommendation to move the location of the substation. That's something that we're working through right now. That would come with some, benefits, also some cost changes. And so that is again, we'll be working through that. We'll have, by the time this meeting occurs next month, we'll have concluded our analysis of that and be able to report back on that. But in terms of things that are moving that we anticipate coming, that's the known item. And then, as Eric noted, we'll continue to confront other challenges as they come. But right now, feeling very good about how on track the program is.
Great. Chair Baldwin Day had a question.
Yeah, I didn't have an opportunity to attend last month's meeting, so apologies if this is a repetitive question. Do we in fact have P in the PCT at this point?
It is full of pee.
That is excellent news, and I wish we had a cake. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any other updates from the administration on the panel?
No further updates today.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much. Moving right along. Next item of business is a couple updates from the Deputy Municipal Manager. Morning. And just for those members online, I don't think we have any presentation materials for this update. It's just going to be verbal.
Yes, Deputy Municipal Manager Mark Spafford, thank you. Yeah, so just kind of a low-key, not too formal update on stormwater utility activities. So kind of the main thing that I think the body probably would have noticed are the reappointment, or not the reappointment, but the appointment of members back on the utility commission for the stormwater utility. And basically that's something that's required in code in order to be able to convey messages back to the assembly, to be able to make decisions about financing different plans that were coming together. So it's just part of the process of looking at standing the stormwater utility back up and picking up kind of like where we left off in 2019, 2020. Which was basically a phase one work was completed. It set up those two things in code, like I just mentioned, like a stormwater utility, as well as the need for a stormwater utility commission. Not very much meat on either one of those. But basically there was a report that recommended a bunch of stuff in phase two that would cost some money to complete, such as a condition assessment, a master plan, as well as like a rate study that would ultimately tell us like how much we're going to pay. In the meantime, what we're working on with the help of watershed management right now is basically, one of the main questions that gets asked whenever, talking about this in public is, how much is this going to cost? And so it wasn't really addressed in the initial work that was done in phase one. And so we're coming up with some just ballpark ranges about what that cost is going to be. And one thing that I did want to mention, if you're not already thinking about it, is we're already paying for this, in one way, shape, form, or manner, whether it's like in your property taxes through bonds that are being issued to repair stormwater infrastructure, or through just the normal operations that maintenance and operations has for, cleaning out storm sewers that are blocked, repairing storm sewers that collapse, taking care of the road impacts from that, as well as like street sweeping. So stuff like that. We're already doing a large amount of that work. And so, don't hold me to this, but, we're probably already paying $6 to $8 a month anyway, whether it's like a stormwater bill or not. So anyway, so that's kind of like the next step is get the utility commission membership step back up, have them start working with us and their stakeholders, it's kind of that public sounding board. And then, when we get to the point, which I think is going to happen in a couple months, come back to to this body and the assembly for recommendations on moving forward, as well as, trying to get what we think is a reasonable path forward today, given it's been, 5 years since we took a look at this really in a hard way. not hard way, but put some, effort into it and kind of see how things have changed since then, basically. So, but that's all I really have for an update. And, obviously I always encourage you as you're thinking about it, please ask questions. That's what I would really be interested right now from this body is there a list of questions that you have so we can start, looking at things that are concerning to you, your, constituents, whatever. So that's my other encouragement to throw out there. So happy to take any questions on that.
Yeah, thank you. I have at least one from Member Brawley.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and I'm not expecting an answer on these right now, but I do have some questions. Because I was not around when this was created. Certainly, I'm very supportive, and I think I understand the implications. One is I know AWU or the other two pieces of AWU are regulated by the RCA, but I know Solid Waste Services isn't. So would this stormwater utility be regulated by the RCA?
That's one of the questions that we're still trying to answer and come up with, but it's a great question.
Second is, and I don't have a long list, but second is, do other communities in Alaska have a stormwater utility? Like, is there any example in Alaska that we can look to?
I am not aware of any local examples. I mean, local as far as the state of Alaska is concerned, that has a specific stormwater utility set up. Now they are common, throughout the lower 48, as many other things are that aren't necessarily common up here. Yet.
Yeah, very familiar with that story. So, and then I guess the other question would be if we, and this is again, it would require some analysis, I think, but who is going to pay in this? So my understanding is anybody with property would pay, presumably. And I know there's the whole, it's what you're discharging into the system. So in theory, if you're keeping all your stormwater on your property, you wouldn't pay anything. But I'm really interested in unpacking more the kind of cost on the residential side and the cost on the commercial side, because if you look at the volume of land, I would think commercial is going to generally pay more because it's larger properties. But I'd love to really understand that more, and especially because we know, for example, commercial property tax assessments are flat, residential property tax assessments are up, and so just wanting to kind of understand what the cost burden will be. And then really put it in context of what folks are paying now as well. So again, not a question for today, but I think that's really one of the key questions that we need to understand as we move into this.
Yes, and another great point, and that's one of the big bucket of things that we have to do as far as that phase 2 is take a look at the rate structure, and make sure and figure out a way that it's going to work for, both property owners and businesses here in Anchorage. And there's a lot of public outreach that's associated with that, not only because of, the number of different road service areas, but also because of issues like that. And so that's a huge part of the second phase is that public outreach to start, addressing those questions and concerns and figuring out something that'll work.
Thanks. And then just one last question. I don't know if this is known now or not, but would public sector entities pay? So I know, for example, the state of Alaska doesn't pay property tax. They might pay a pill. Is this because it's a service that's being provided? Is that something where every user would pay regardless of it's private sector, public sector? Or is that also something that needs to get figured out?
Correct. It needs to get figured out as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions for now.
Good questions. Thank you. Anyone else? Chair Baldwin Day.
Yeah, I think along similar lines, I think some questions that I would have, and I'm sure that my constituents would also have, would be, putting a finer point on how much are we already paying for drainage issues, stormwater, and I mean, those being right now sort of hidden costs. I think really illuminating what is that dollar amount that property owners are already paying and we don't even recognize that that's what it's for. And then I think more broadly, it would be helpful for there to be more explicit communication about why this is necessary. I think most people don't understand the real impacts that drainage has on the quality of our roadways, on potholes, on all of those kinds of things. And so I think some education around what stormwater actually does in our system would be sort of a helpful starting point in terms of that public communication. And then I think the last question that I have is what are we looking at in terms of time scale from study to identifying options to implementation, and what is maybe not in I wouldn't hold you to anything, but what is the duration of this process? Is it 6 months? Is it 2 years from sort of where we are now to actual implementation of a utility?
Member Baldwin, I mean, great questions. So part of that is part of the work that we need to do in this next phase of it, and this current iteration is like figure out timelines, scope, schedule, budget for like what it would take to do the work. Obviously the communication and outreach is like extremely important. And so like some of that stuff that you mentioned will definitely be part of the outreach. And, like one thing, just put on record, that it's $1.2 billion worth of infrastructure, like roughly, that's out there that's related to stormwater. It's the stormwater, like utilities that are associated with stormwater system. And so prudent practice, just like we do with the Anchorage Water and Wastewater Utility, with solid waste services, is, causer, cost payer. And so that's just how we operate for the most part on our utilities. And it's just a version of like what we can do here if there's appetite for it and there's a need and a desire to make that happen. And so that's prudent utility practice. However, we are where we are right now. And things like time and effort and money and what people can afford are all kind of issues that'll feed into this at the end of the day. And so those are all things that we need to be thinking about, as we're talking about the stormwater utility and looking at these subsequent phases and, what we really want to do to be, current path or, more proactive. It's all kind of decisions that we have to make along with the utility commission and of course, the administration. So.
Okay, thank you. I just want to note for the record that we were joined by Member Constant at 11:35, and then next in the queue I have Dean Gates.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Stafford, I was wondering, I recall when this was discussed back in like 2019, it was a pretty hefty report that was very useful, I think, to understand what an establishing stormwater utility entails. It's like a 30-40 page report. Is that something we can find on the municipalities, like, is there a web page? And is that still relevant, or is it stale? Does it need to be updated? I'm just curious. That would be useful for the members to read.
I think what I understood Dean to ask the question is there the Stormwater Utility Commission page still available on the Muni's website that has information that would be relevant, salient to the discussion of the stormwater utility? And the answer is yes, and I can share that with the members after this.
Dean, did that answer your question? The volume was a little low when you first started speaking.
Well, not only a page, but there was a 30-40 page report, and I wondered if that is still, relevant, because it was 2019, I think, if that's available on the page.
Yes, that is available on the page. Yep. It's not, that's part of what we're doing is our review process before we, to figure out like how everything's changed, and is this still like is this still the correct course and the correct path that we can take given our current operating conditions?
Did that cover it, Dean?
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Then I have, I'm going to put myself in the queue with one more question to add to your list to consider. Would this fit within an existing service area, or would we be contemplating creating a new service area? Or is that even a relevant question in this case?
Oh, it's absolutely relevant. And that's one of the things that we will consider and evaluate during the phase 2 work. Because it's obvious there's several different management entities, and Kenna, who's here from Watershed, could share more light on that if you're interested. But yeah, it's not, the management of it is not straightforward. It's complicated in a number of ways because there's just a lot of different entities that are engaged in it. So
yeah, fair answer. Any other questions on this topic? Not seeing any. Not seeing anything on the phone. All right, so Mr. Spafford, go ahead and jump to the next category.
So with respect to the waste energy project, I think our team was here last month and gave an update on some of like the technical work that's ongoing, which there's quite a few RFPs that are being worked on. Not RFPs, but like hiring people through the RFP process to start developing some of the work that's required as part of the waste energy part, like digging through trash and figuring out the energy content of it to be able to size your boilers and how much heat you need, and like looking at all the different places where there's garbage that could potentially come here to Anchorage to be able to help fund the facility, as well as like sludge. Anyway, stuff like that. Public relations is like another big one that's been issued that we're working on right now, because it's a huge project. Public outreach is going to be very important because people are going to have a lot of questions on it. And to like dovetail on that public outreach topic that I want to make sure everyone was aware of, I met last week with the Federation of Community Councils, had a good presentation on the topic to them, went about an hour. And then I also met with the Chugach board last week and gave a presentation to the board as well as senior management there. Got good support. It's being included in their integrated resource plan, which is their plan to look at their master plan for their utility. So they're including that as well as like a potential power generation source. So just because of, the outreach and, the public consumption of the federal or the FCC, I just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware that we're talking about in public. It's on the Federation of Community Councils webpage, and talking with Chugach Electric about it as well.
Great, thank you. I have Member Constant in the queue.
So once we get that waste energy plant built and it's operating and selling power, is the RCA going to give our vote to Chugach?
I do not have an answer for that, Member Constant.
Anyone else? Not seeing anyone on the phone. That's everything you have on WTE, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. See, Mr. Falsey's joined us. Did you have something?
Thank you, Chair Johnson. I was just going to say that I don't know that we ever presented to this committee, but we did submit to the Assembly on the December 2nd agenda, the revised comprehensive plan of finance for the Port of Alaska. I don't think there's any news there, but I did want to create an opportunity to receive any questions. And if there's questions that you need to submit after this meeting, that'd be welcome too. As by way of reminder, this is part of our pledge to keep the comprehensive plan of finance in an evergreen status. So we will be updating it every year with actual volumes received at the port and actual construction costs. And in the main, those were the changes that were rolled into this edition, this first revised edition. Otherwise, the framework and the ultimate economic engine of seeking grant funding, but otherwise backfilling with surcharge supported revenue bonds remains the same.
Any questions from members here now? We have one from Chair Baldwin Day.
Yeah, I was curious, looking at the comparison, what does it look like for port surcharges with and without significant support from the state of Alaska and the federal government? Do we have any sort of sense or any kind of indication from either of those entities, but I'm thinking particularly of the Federal Department of Transportation, about what sorts of support might be possible in the coming years? Is that actually forthcoming, I guess is my question.
To Chair Baldwin Day, I think that the outlook on state involvement depends sensitively on whether there is a state general obligation bond. I think it is not a surprise or news to anyone to see that the capital budgets for the state have been historically very small in the previous years. My understanding is that the governor's proposed budget for next year draws from savings in an amount over $1 billion. So there's just not a lot of money, maybe in keeping with a refrain that we've heard many times. I don't think the state is coming to save us on this one, at least in the short term, unless there is a general obligation bond. On the federal side, we are still actively looking at all of the programmatic grant programs, but the programmatic grant programs are a little bit new. It used to be that there was really not a program that allowed you to fund port projects. It was all of the infrastructure grants were really geared towards highways and things. That changed a bit. We've had success with infra grants and build grants, Tiger grants, all sort of variants that have changed their name. And we're just sort of now looking at the new notice of federal funding availability related to the build grant. But I will say those will not really move the needle in a significant way, I don't think. I think we're going to be looking for some other kind of programmatic solution, and we have been in regular communication with our congressional delegation and are hopeful, but there's certainly no promises when we're potentially making a sui generis ask.
Thank you.
Member Brawley.
Yeah, I have kind of a basic question, but it's I was trying to answer somebody else's question to me. It is the just backing out from the PAMP and everything, the port tariffs in general, is there any possibility that those funds can be used for general government? Like, for example, if we raise a port tariff, can it be put into the general government, or does it need to stay within? And because I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to make super clear that the revenue potential from the port can only go to the port. Is that correct?
The way I would answer that question is, in general, the money raised by the port stays in the port because it is an enterprise of the municipality of Anchorage, and so all of its finances are self-contained. The one exception to that is because it is a business enterprise of the municipality, like the utilities, like the airport Merrill Field, like SWS, like AWU and MLMP before it, it could pay a dividend to general government, and it has paid a dividend to general government. That dividend has been calculated on something like a payment in lieu of taxes, like if it paid property taxes plus a share of revenues. But when we knew that the amount of revenue moving through the port was going to change dramatically in order to rebuild the port because we're going to have these PAMP surcharges, the Assembly adopted somewhere in the 2019 era a change to the dividend formula to prevent the kind of thing that I think probably is motivating the question to you, that if we raise the tariff dramatically, does that just mean millions of dollars can flow to general government? So I guess the answer is formally, in theory, maybe, but in practice, we have not done that and don't anticipate doing that because we need those funds to pay for the rebuild.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and I know given where we are now, that is not a realistic possibility given the need at the port anyway, but thanks for answering that.
Member Constant.
I'll follow on that. I'd heard something similar, somebody arguing that we should use the port to pay for the city. And my response was, I think maybe that's a conversation after the port's been rebuilt and in a long time from now when it's been repaid. But for everybody that's listening, the intent that's been designed, it's in the plan, is that the port funds that are generated by tariffs fund the port. And that's it, full stop.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing any other questions or comments. That we've moved through the entirety of our agenda in, I think, near record time. So with that, I'd like to open it up to audience participation. Not seeing anyone in the room. Mr. Farina, anyone online or on the phone? All right, nobody there either. So with that, thank you everyone for coming down today. Glad we could get you out a bit early. We are adjourned.